So for Muslim law, from Unit 5, there is another concept which we have that we will be discussing. Okay, it is basically a legislation that we have, Family Courts Act 1984. Okay. Then we have provisions regarding jurisdiction of family courts also. We know how family courts will be established, where and all it will be established, who will establish it. But for what all matters, family courts will be having jurisdiction. Right? That is jurisdiction of family courts. So it is again given under Chapter 3 and Section 7 of the Family Courts Act, the third chapter, which is specifically on jurisdiction, that mentions with regard to jurisdiction of family courts. So regarding jurisdiction of family courts, it is being mentioned under Chapter 3 and Section 7 of the legislation, which tells that in matrimonial matters also what sort of matters will go before these family courts. And 8.1 is exclusion of jurisdiction. Okay, so 8 is exclusion of jurisdiction. Section 7 is also important, which is jurisdiction of family court. So family court shall have and exercise all jurisdiction exercised by any district court or any subordinate court under any law for the time being in force in respect of suits and proceedings coming under jurisdiction of family courts. Otherwise, what happened is these matrimonial matters were decided by the regular civil courts only, right? So whatever powers those courts were having, whatever jurisdiction they were having, the same jurisdiction will apply with regard to these family courts also. So same powers they will also enjoy, but these are limited to only matrimonial disputes, which are mentioned under Section 7 of the legislation. So with respect to all those matters, family courts will be having the power or the authority to take a decision. So what are these jurisdictions? Basically, there are these 5, 6, 7, 8 different jurisdictions that we are having. First one is a suit or proceeding between parties to a marriage for decree of nullity of marriage. So sometimes what happens is, like, under some misunderstanding or misconception, right, there may be like a person who enters into, like 2 marriages. Okay, so in Hindu law, suppose it's only like 1 marriage is allowed, but something happens, or that might be one of the parties was not aware that this other party is married or something. They just get married, and after that what happens is this previous wife may come and say that no, I'm already married to him, so your marriage is like invalid, right? Because second marriage will be invalid, first one will be valid. So in such a case, right, it might be needed that court passes a decree for nullity of marriage. That means court will declare that this specific marriage is null and void, and this marriage is not binding. Why? Because there was already an existing forced marriage between the parties, right? So we need to declare that this marriage is null and void. For that also parties may go before court. Okay, so that is the first jurisdiction which we have, to declare a marriage null and void. Or it might be restitution of conjugal rights, judicial separation, or dissolution of marriage. So restitution of conjugal rights, have you got this somewhere?
No, ma'am.
So restitution of conjugal rights, right? Basically, it is like we say, right, in India that you don't marry the person, you marry the family, right? Why we say it? Because there are some responsibilities or obligations that also come along with the marriage, right? So there are some expectations that parties will be having, right, from one another. So if someone, right, without any valid justification, simply just, like ignores all those responsibilities and all that stuff, right? Basically, like as if there is no connection sort of a thing, right? In such a case, a case will be filed before court saying that court should pass an order for restitution of conjugal rights. That means conjugal rights as in being married to someone, whatever rights you are having, right? That you may ask the other person to, like get involved in some family function or some family matters and stuff, right? For those, court will ask the party, right? Court will say that you don't have any valid justification for ignoring this person's family altogether, so you should not be doing it, but rather you should be taking part in it and stuff. Okay, so that is nothing but restitution of conjugal rights, which is also very common, right? There might be cases where, like two persons got married, but then one of them said that for my work, I need to live in this other city. And then after that, like no connection with the family, no, nothing about it, right? In such cases, a case may be filed for restitution of conjugal rights, that because you are married, you have some obligations, or I have some rights to expect something from you. Okay, so that is nothing but restitution of conjugal rights, which is like a very popular or a very common thing. Okay, for that also, parties will go to family courts only to ask for this restitution. Okay. Then we have judicial separation, dissolution of marriage. So what is the difference between judicial separation and dissolution of marriage?
Judicial separation means probably by an non-compliance of law, probably. Then dissolution of marriage means both the couples at their own will taking a divorce kind of thing.
So dissolution of marriage basically means divorce only, but judicial separation might be like, say in case of divorce, what happens is parties have finally decided, right, that okay, fine, we are ending this marriage. But there may be a time where parties are, like yet in that stage of deciding or something, or maybe if they have filed a case before court, court also would give them some time to think about it, right? Decide on the matter. So in such cases, there may be judicial separation, that court will ask the parties that, okay, fine, you are judicially separated. You are no more bound to stay together in one house and stuff. But during that stage, right, if parties feel that, no, fine, we can settle the matter between us and stuff, they can get it done. That means their marriage is not yet, like their marriage has not ended yet. They are just judicially staying separately. Okay, but with regard to dissolution of marriage, it is like completely ending of the marriage. It is like divorce, right? So that is the basic difference which we have. So in all these matters, family courts will be having jurisdiction if someone wants a marriage to be declared as null and void, for restitution of conjugal rights, for judicial separation, for dissolution of marriage. All right, all these are matrimonial suits for which parties will approach family court. Then we have another one, a suit or proceeding for a declaration as to validity of a marriage or as to matrimonial status of any person. So why do we need a declaration with regard to validity of a marriage, right? Sometimes what may happen is, take for example, two persons got married in the temple might be. Okay, so with their family members were not involved and family members are not, like accepting that marriage. In such a case, what will happen is, both these parties are already married, right? They have performed the rituals and stuff. In such a case, what will happen is, for them to be accepted by the society or family, they may approach the court. That court will declare that whatever marriage they have performed, that marriage is valid and binding for the parties. Right? Here what happened is, court declared that this specific marriage is null and void, which mostly happens in case of like a second marriage, where one of the parties did not know that other person is married and stuff, right? And accordingly got married. So it would be like null and void. But in the second one, declaration as to validity of the marriage, that parties will approach the court and court will say that, yes, in this specific marriage, they have performed what are, like the rituals and stuff. So this marriage is valid, this marriage is binding. Accordingly, families will have to also accept that, yes, this marriage is valid and binding. Or as to the matrimonial status of any person, or someone may not accept that, yes, this person is husband or wife of this other one, right? In such cases also, parties may approach the court for matrimonial status of any person, right? That court will recognize that, yes, you are husband or wife of so and so person based on this specific marriage, because this marriage is binding. So that also may be one of the matters that may be decided by family court. A suit or proceeding between parties to the marriage with respect to property of the parties or of either of them. So after they got divorced and stuff, whatever properties, it may be like a joint property that both the persons had purchased, how to decide on that matter. Or it might be that one person is not financially independent, so this other person need to, like whether this person will get some property or some other stuff or not. Those matters might be decided. So with regard to property which is involved in a marriage, or between the parties, right, whatever properties they hold, with regard to that also, decision may not be able to come to a conclusion, and they are accordingly approaching the court to settle the matter with regard to it. So this is property of the parties, both of them or either of them, they need to decide. A suit or proceeding for an order or injunction in circumstances arising out of marital relationship. So there might be some order or injunction also which parties may want to get from court. Okay, take for example, someone, like after divorce, right, they fought for custody of the child. Okay, and one of the parties got custody of the child. All right, take for example, might be wife got custody of the child. It was like a small kid. Wife got custody of the child. Now wife is saying that I got custody and also I want to keep my child away from her father. All right, so what happens is, this father might be, he would get drunk and he would come and meet his daughter and stuff. So in such cases, what wife will do is, she will file a case to get an order from court, or like an injunction order she would try to get, that this husband should not be meeting his daughter, right? He is not having that right. Or he should not be meeting her too often, only might be like once a year or something, that thing it will be given, right? So those sort of injunctions also might be passed, that suit or proceeding for an injunction order for any sort of situation that might be arising out of marital relationship. So for that also, parties may be approaching the court, and in that case, again, family courts would be having jurisdiction to try the matter. Suit or proceeding for a declaration as to legitimacy of any person. So whether a child is legitimate or not, with regard to that, there might be like a question. Regarding that also, parties may approach the court and get an order from the court with regard to it, whether child is legitimate or not, and whether child will be having right over property of parents or not, right? Those matters also may be decided by a family court. Suit or proceeding for maintenance or alimony. After divorce, who will be getting maintenance? How much of maintenance parties will be getting? All that stuff also will be decided by the court with regard to it, right? So it is usually done based on the personal laws of the parties, right? How much amount they will be paid and other stuff. Then a suit or proceeding in relation to guardianship of the person or custody of or access to any minor, right? Who will be having custody of the child plus access to the minor, right? If like husband got custody of the child, whether wife will be having access to the child or not. If wife got the child, whether husband will be having access to the child or not, right? That access also is very, like a very common thing, right? The other party might say that this person is not, like it's not good that this person meets the child, might be because this person is insane, might be he would get drunk, or because of some other reasons, right? So for those matters also, case may be filed before court. And last one, right, for all these things, right? So divorce, declaration of a marriage as null and void, judicial separation, validity of marriage, then property, settlement of property of parties, injunction order regarding marital relation, declaration as to legitimacy, maintenance, guardianship, all these matters, right? These are what? These are civil suits, right? Only parties are involved, and accordingly, they would ask for an order from court, right? So when a court is deciding a matter coming under all these things, right? 5, 6, 7, all these 7 points, it will be considered that family court is what? It's just like a civil court that we have, right? Because it is trying to replace the civil court in terms of marital disputes, right? So when a court, family court, is deciding all these matters, we would say that this court is like similar to a civil court. Okay, but there is one matter wherein family courts will have this, like the jurisdiction just like a magistrate court. Why is it so? Because there is one provision, okay, this code of criminal procedure we have, right? The process how criminal law will be applicable. There we have one section, section 125, which talks about maintenance of wife, children, and parents. Okay, so maintenance need to be given to wife, children, plus parents. Like children also need to give maintenance to their elderly parents who are not having sufficient resources to maintain themselves. Similarly, parents are also liable to give maintenance to their minor son or unmarried daughters. Okay, so all these things are mentioned under section 125 of CRPC. Now, this law is applicable irrespective of, like the religion of the person, right? This is like a general law that we have, not like a personal law. And it is coming from this criminal procedure, right? So if a family court is deciding a matter with regard to maintenance amount to be paid to any of these, that time also we will consider that this family court is what? It is a court similar to magistrate of first class. Why? Because it is deciding a matter which otherwise falls under magistrate court. Okay, so for all these remaining ones, we will consider it's a civil court. Only for this matter, when it's deciding a maintenance suit under section 125 of CRPC, we will consider that it is like a criminal court. Okay, so this is with regard to jurisdiction of family courts. Is that part clear?
Yes, madam. Madam, this family court act is applicable equally for Muslims and Hindu both, right?
It is just a court that is being set up. Otherwise, matters will be decided based on personal laws only. So for any relation, if the matter is falling under any of these things, right, then they can approach the family court. It's just a court, but otherwise matters will be decided based on their personal laws only inside the court.
Okay.